As available fossil fuels become inaccessible and the Earth's atmosphere continues to trap in harmful gases that destroy fragile ecosystems, we continue to depend on a carbon-based influence for energy creation. These non-renewable resources are no longer sustainable and demand substitution. More options for renewable sources of energy have become available and more efficient over the last century. Some of the more popular ones include solar energy, hydroelectric power, and wind power. In this argument, we will focus on nuclear energy as it is the most productive of the renewable sources of power and is often disregarded by the public due to negative publicity. Following the passage of time and recent technological improvements, nuclear energy has become cleaner and significantly safer. However, many remain opposed to the implementation of believably unsafe forms of alternative energy. This argument will not only outline the importance of creating a collective movement to fund nuclear research as a necessary investment, but discuss methods for improvement and the reasons for past failures. It will also address the shifting public concern and the most effective ways to continue to shape it. The transition to a safe, efficient, and affordable energy resource is obligatory due to the excess pollution being dumped into our oceans and pumped into our skies. Our most utilized energy sources are currently coal, oil, and gas. All three of these carbon-based resources make up a huge proportion of the world economy, and internationally we have become naturally dependent on them. This creates a dilemma, as these carbon resources also create nearly all air pollution and are responsible for an estimated 4.2 million deaths per year. These deaths are primarily due to stroke, lung cancer, heart disease, and chronic respiratory diseases, which greatly impact the health and safety of many around the world. According to the World Health Organization, nearly 91% of the world's population lives in areas with pollution levels that exceed the World Health Organization's recommended limit, placing the majority of people at risk for these health issues. Areas with the highest concentration of people affected are the Western Pacific and the Southeast Asian regions. In Southeast Asian countries, roughly 85.14% to 99.76% of the produced energy comes from fossil fuels, and according to the editors of De Gruyter, this is a wealth of evidence on the adverse effects of air pollutants on the respiratory system, especially in children and infants. These health effects vary from increased respiratory complications to asthma, allergies, pneumonia, and bronchitis or decreased lung function. These claims serve as direct evidence pointing towards major health risks being induced due to air pollution in populous cities and reinforce the claim that a new source of energy needs to be primarily utilized over gas, oil, and coal. Every year this need becomes direr according to Hannah Richty, as she estimates that total energy usage has risen from 119,309 terawatt hours in 1999 to 173,340 terawatt hours in 2019. In just 20 years, energy consumption levels have risen by 45.3% and are expected to rise by even greater measures as high-power demanding technology becomes more readily available. Due to this effect, health issues due to carbon emissions and pollution will only plague a greater percentage of the population. Many of our current sources of alternative energy, such as solar, wind, and hydroelectric energy, are either too expensive to implement, not probable under certain geographical conditions, or not efficient enough to provide for the worldwide demands for power production. Nuclear energy is, however, affordable for countries with highly developed economies, can meet the demands of energy production within those countries, and is far safer than the constant stream of pollutants resulting from carbon emissions. There has been a recent increase in the use and development of nuclear plants in Europe, primarily in the Scandinavian region, and no recorded health defects or chronic issues have resulted due to their switch in energy production. This retains a drastic difference by populations of health and early age development compared to the highly polluted cities of Southeast Asia. Overall, nuclear energy has provided not only an effective combatant to pollution created by carbon-based power generation, but also a much safer one within populous areas and for worldwide ecosystems. The history of nuclear energy is not often as bright as it's used today. primarily due to our ability to safely cool reactors and create safe, self-sustaining power stations. Some of the more popular incidents are Chernobyl and Fukushima. In both of these incidents, there were already present issues with how they were set up, regular maintenance, and problems when they were addressed. In the IAEA Nuclear Energy Series Nuclear Accident Knowledge Taxonomy, the researchers state, the global nuclear industry has experienced 3 major nuclear accidents, which have strongly influenced the nuclear industry, each with different internal damage to the reactor core, different levels of radioactive release to the environment, and different actions taken to deal with the emergency. The 3 Mile Island accident in 1979, the Chernobyl accident in 1986, and the Fukushima Daiichi accident in 2011. This quote states that the reactors already contained issues that were not properly addressed, resulting in catastrophic failure. These became issues that were considered in the future application of plants, and government regulations on standards for plant maintenance were reinforced. These incidents also all prevented issues regarding emergency preparation and instant government response as to protecting masses of people and preventing the spread of radioactive material. Most other incidents on the Guardian's list of nuclear incidents since 1952 had 1 or less death and did not put the surrounding area in danger. Unfortunately, nuclear power is extremely complex, and as a Harvard study suggests, examples of operations and maintenance activities include A. Refueling operations, B. Preventative and corrective maintenance of mechanical and electrical equipment, instrumentation and control, INC, and chemical systems, C. Cleanup, recovery from minor spills and leaks, D. Inspection of key component systems as required to meet regulatory requirements and standards, and E. Coolant sampling and routine radiological surveys around plant equipment. Much of these standard maintenance procedures were not taken into account before the construction and operation of the plants, resulting in failure. This list is now standard regarding the operation of such plants to ensure the everlasting safety of large-scale communities that now depend on nuclear energy as a more primary source of energy. Another issue with the execution of extensive nuclear energy production is handling and disposing of the byproduct of nuclear waste. As of now, there is no guaranteed way to properly and safely rid of the waste other than to store it until it is no longer radioactive, which can often take decades due to many of the elements having massive half-lives. The World Nuclear Association comments on the resulting nuclear waste, stating that all forms of energy produce waste, and for radioactive waste, this means isolating or diluting it such that the rate or concentration of any radionuclides returned to the biosphere is harmless. Based on this statement, a current transition to nuclear power without a proper waste disposal system would still provide considerably less, if any at all, damage to ecosystems. This is compared to the continued use of carbon resources that will continue to destroy our ecosystems and through worldwide pollution have lasting effects on the Earth's ability to host life. Nuclear energy keeps its acknowledged and substandard reputation based on large key incidents that resulted in communities being deemed unsafe for living and a death toll following each major occurrence of reactor failure. For much of the public, these events prove that nuclear energy always has and always will be unsafe, and many implementations of reactors continue to leave people uncomfortable living near them or feeling as though they will develop cancer or have permanent genetic defects. With proper implementation and usage of the plants, these do not regularly occur. Unfortunately, not much has been done to change the public opinion on the use of nuclear power and address the actual causes of major failures. Many also remain uninformed to what has been done to fix previous errors and improve this method of power generation. Due to the public's lack of understanding with regards to the operation and improvements of nuclear energy, it remains extremely difficult to replace our current main sources of energy. Many want to burn cheap and accessible coal now and deal with worldwide consequences later. Refusing to take action is not an effective plan to reduce carbon emissions, and often defends their increased use. While there is no plan set in motion to change the majority's perspective, the best action would be to continue funding the research and development of nuclear power and continue to discourage the use of carbon fuels. The public is more accepting of nuclear energy than ever, and now is the time to escalate its research and development as we approach the end of fossil fuel deposits and the atmospheric capacity for these dense carbon molecules.